Stop scrolling. Before you keep watching, ask yourself one question. Have you ever felt like people judged you before they truly knew your heart? Have you ever watched someone reduce an entire person to a single number? An age. A date. A label. Because that's exactly what happened. The room was filled with conversation. Everyone seemed comfortable until someone suddenly looked at your special person and asked, "So, how old are they?" The atmosphere changed. People started whispering. Some smiled. Some laughed quietly. Others exchanged doubtful looks as if a number could explain an entire human soul. For a moment, nobody noticed your special person. They stayed silent. Not because they had no answer, but because they were deciding whether to ignore the comments, or finally speak the truth. Then they slowly stood up. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward them. The room became completely silent. They looked around and calmly said, "You keep talking about their age. But I want to talk about their heart." Nobody interrupted. Because something about those words carried weight. They continued, "You see a number. I see the person who stayed when everyone else walked away. You see years. I see courage. You see a birthday. I see someone who taught me how to become stronger." The room grew quieter. Some people lowered their eyes. Others listened more carefully than before. Your special person continued, "Tell me something. When did kindness start having an age limit? When did loyalty become too old or too young? When did compassion become something measured by numbers?" Nobody answered. Because deep down, everyone knew the answer. It never did. Character has never depended on age. Integrity has never depended on age. Love has never depended on age. Some of the wisest people are young. Some of the kindest people are old. A beautiful heart cannot be measured with a calendar. Your special person smiled and said, "The person you're talking about never judged me when I was struggling. They never asked whether I deserved kindness. They simply chose kindness. And that is something I will never forget." Those words changed the atmosphere. The laughter disappeared. The whispers stopped. People started thinking instead of talking. Maybe someone listening today has experienced something similar. Maybe people looked at your age before they looked at your character. Maybe they judged your story before hearing it. Remember this. The people who truly matter will never reduce you to a number. They will remember your honesty, your loyalty, your compassion, your courage. Those are the things that last. If this reminds you that character matters more than labels, write, "Character over numbers." Your special person looked around the room one last time. Then they said something nobody expected. If this person's age is the biggest thing you noticed, then you completely missed the best part of who they are. They inspire people. They encourage people. They make others feel safe. They remind people that goodness still exists. And if you cannot see that, you're looking with your eyes instead of your heart. Silence filled the room again. Not an uncomfortable silence. A thoughtful silence. The kind that happens when truth reaches people all at once. One older family member quietly nodded. Another admitted, "I never thought about it that way." And suddenly the conversation changed. No longer about age. No longer about appearances. Now it was about values. About respect. About the kind of person someone chooses to become. Your special person left the room later that evening. They looked at the stars and whispered to themselves, "I hope they never forget how much they matter." Not because of a number. Not because of what people think. But because of who they are. That is what real admiration looks like. It is not blind. It is not based on appearances. It is based on seeing someone's true character and appreciating it. So if today you have ever felt judged by your age, remember this. Your value has never been created by a birthday. Your worth has never been decided by public opinion. The right people will remember the way you treated them. The way you lifted them up. The way you stayed honest when honesty was difficult. Long after numbers are forgotten, character remains. Kindness remains. Love remains. And that is what truly makes a person unforgettable. They thought the conversation was over. But they were wrong. Because one person in the room looked at your special person and quietly said, "You sound emotional. Are you really willing to defend someone this much?" Your special person smiled. Not an angry smile. Not a nervous smile. The kind of smile that comes when someone has finally stopped being afraid of the truth. They answered, "I'm not defending a number. I'm defending a heart." The room became silent again. Then they continued. "You only know how many birthdays they've had. I know how many nights they stayed strong when life tried to break them. You know the year they were born. I know the moments they chose forgiveness instead of revenge. You know their age. I know their character." Nobody expected those words. Because they suddenly realized something. Every opinion they had formed had been based on something that never truly mattered. One person quietly asked, "What makes this person so different?" Your special person took a deep breath. Then answered, "They never made me feel small. They never laughed at my failures. They never disappeared when life became difficult. When everyone else wanted the easy version of me, they stayed with the real version." Silence. Complete silence. Because everyone understands how rare that is. Many people celebrate you when life is easy. Very few remain when life becomes complicated. Your special person continued. "I've met people older than them who never learned kindness. I've met people younger than them who carried incredible wisdom. So don't tell me age decides maturity. Choices decide maturity. Character decides maturity. Integrity decides maturity." Those words changed something inside the room. People stopped judging. They started listening. One older relative slowly nodded. Then quietly admitted, "I judged too quickly." Another person whispered, "I never thought about it like that." Your special person looked around the room. Then spoke even more honestly. "You know why I respect them? Because they never needed attention to be kind. They helped people who could never repay them. They encouraged people who never thanked them. They remained humble when they had every reason to become bitter. That isn't weakness. That is strength." Maybe someone listening today needed to hear that. The world often mistakes kindness for weakness. But choosing kindness after disappointment takes incredible strength. Choosing forgiveness after betrayal requires courage. Choosing hope after heartbreak requires faith. Never apologize for having a good heart. Your special person continued. "I've watched them carry pain without asking anyone to carry it for them. I've watched them smile while silently fighting battles nobody knew existed. I've watched them encourage others while secretly needing encouragement themselves. And somehow, they still choose love." The room was completely quiet. Because everyone realized, they had spent so much time talking about a number. They forgot to ask about the soul. If you believe the heart matters more than appearances, right, the heart always matters. Your special person looked down for a moment. Then smiled. They probably don't even realize how many lives they've touched. They probably don't know how many people became stronger because of one conversation. They probably don't know how many people found hope because they simply refused to give up. That's who they are. They change people without trying. One family member asked, "So why haven't you told them this before?" The room became quiet once again. Your special person answered honestly. Because sometimes we assume people already know they're appreciated. But they don't. They need to hear it. Everyone does. That sentence stayed with everyone. How many people silently wonder if they matter? How many people secretly wonder if anyone notices their effort? How many people keep giving, while wondering if anyone sees their heart? More than we realize. Your special person looked toward the window. The sun was beginning to set. Soft golden light filled the room. They quietly said, "If I ever get another chance, I won't waste time worrying about what people think. I'll spend that time appreciating someone who deserves it." Because life changes quickly. Conversations end. Moments disappear. But gratitude spoken at the right time can stay in someone's heart forever. One by one, the people in the room stopped talking. Not because they had nothing to say. Because they finally understood. The discussion had never been about age. It had always been about value. And value has never been measured in years. It is measured in compassion. In honesty. In loyalty. In the courage to remain kind in a world that often rewards cruelty. Your special person smiled one final time. If one day they forget how valuable they are, I hope someone reminds them. I hope someone tells them that the world needs more hearts like theirs. I hope someone tells them not to change. Because people like that are rare. People who remain gentle after hardship. People who remain hopeful after disappointment. People who remain honest when dishonesty would be easier. Those people make the world brighter. The conversation finally ended. But nobody left unchanged. Because every person walked away realizing the same truth. A number may tell you someone's age. But only their actions reveal their heart. And in the end, people rarely remember birthdays. They remember how someone made them feel. They remember the kindness they received. They remember the peace they experienced. They remember the love they never expected. That is the legacy that lasts. And that is why your special person never defended your age. They defended your heart. Because they knew something everyone else had forgotten. A beautiful soul is timeless. Days passed after that conversation. But something unexpected happened. The words spoken that evening refused to disappear. Every person who had been in that room kept thinking about them. Not because they were dramatic. But because they were true. Truth has a strange way of staying with people. Long after the conversation ends. Long after everyone goes home. Long after the room becomes quiet. Truth keeps speaking. Your special person noticed something. The same people who had once questioned you, had stopped asking about your age. Now they were asking different questions. What kind of person are they? What makes them so unforgettable? What did they do that changed you so much? Your special person smiled. Because those were finally the right questions. Not questions about numbers. Questions about character. Questions about purpose. Questions about the heart. They answered softly, "They taught me something most people never learn. They taught me that love isn't about impressing someone. It's about making someone feel safe. They taught me that loyalty isn't something you talk about. It's something you live. They taught me that respect isn't earned through age. It's earned through actions." The room became quiet once again. Someone finally admitted, "I judged too quickly." Another person said, "I wish more people thought like that." Your special person nodded. Then quietly replied, "The world changes when people stop judging appearances and start paying attention to character. Because that's where real beauty lives. Not in perfection. Not in popularity. Not in public approval. Real beauty lives inside a heart that still chooses goodness. A heart that refuses to become bitter. A heart that keeps believing people deserve another chance. Maybe someone watching this needed to hear that. Maybe you've been trying to prove yourself. Trying to convince people you're enough. Trying to earn acceptance. Listen carefully. You do not need to become someone else to deserve respect. You do not need to change your age. You do not need to change your appearance. You only need to protect the goodness inside your heart. Because character always outlives appearance. Integrity always outlives popularity. Kindness always outlives first impressions. If you believe that, right, character lasts forever. Your special person continued speaking. You know what surprised me the most? They never tried to make me admire them. They simply lived with honesty. They never asked for applause. They simply chose kindness. And somehow, that changed me. Those words touched everyone. Because influence isn't always loud. Sometimes the people who change us the most never realize they changed us at all. One family member quietly asked, "Do they know how much they mean to you?" Your special person looked down. A small smile appeared. Then they answered honestly, "Probably not. I don't think they realize how much stronger I became because of them. I don't think they know how many difficult days became easier because they simply listened. I don't think they understand the impact they had." Maybe that's true for someone listening today. Maybe you have no idea how many lives you've quietly touched. How many people remember your encouragement? How many people became stronger because of one conversation with you? How many people smiled because you refused to give up on them? Your impact is bigger than you know. Never underestimate quiet kindness. The loudest voices are not always the most powerful. Sometimes one gentle heart changes generations. Your special person stood up to leave. Before walking away, they looked back at everyone and said, "If life teaches us anything, it teaches us not to wait too long before appreciating good people. Because one day, the opportunity might be gone." Nobody responded. They didn't need to. Every person in that room understood. Gratitude delayed often becomes regret. Respect delayed often becomes guilt. Love delayed often becomes a memory. Choose today. Choose kindness today. Choose forgiveness today. Choose appreciation today. Because tomorrow is never guaranteed. That night your special person looked at the sky. Not searching for signs. Not searching for answers. Simply feeling grateful. Grateful that they had crossed paths with someone whose heart reminded them what genuine goodness looked like. And before going inside, they whispered one final sentence. "I hope they never change. I hope this world never convinces them to become cold. I hope they continue being exactly who they are. Because hearts like that are rare. And when you find one, you protect it. You appreciate it. You never reduce it to a number. You remember it for what truly matters. It's courage. It's kindness. It's love. It's character. Because years can tell the world how long someone has lived. But only their heart can tell the world how well they lived. And that is what your special person wanted everyone to understand from the very beginning. Months later, something happened that nobody expected. The conversation everyone thought was forgotten, returned. Not because someone brought it up, but because life had a way of proving every word your special person had spoken. One by one, the people who once judged you from a distance began meeting you in real life. They watched how you treated strangers. They watched how you spoke to people who could offer you nothing in return. They noticed the patience in your voice, the respect in your words, the sincerity in your actions. And something inside them quietly changed. One evening a family member looked at your special person and smiled. They said, Now I understand. I didn't understand before. But I understand now. Your special person didn't look surprised. They simply asked, what changed? The answer was simple. I finally stopped listening to opinions. And started paying attention to actions. Those words meant everything. Because actions have always told the truth. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can create an image. Anyone can say the right words. But character is revealed through consistency. Through ordinary moments. Through the choices nobody applauds. Your special person smiled. Then quietly said, I knew this day would come. Because genuine people never have to prove who they are forever. Eventually, the truth introduces itself. Maybe that's what someone watching today needed to hear. You may feel misunderstood. You may feel overlooked. You may feel like people judged you before knowing your heart. Be patient. Character takes longer to recognize than appearances. But once people truly see it, they rarely forget it. One family member admitted something difficult. I owe them an apology. I judged them by things that never mattered. I noticed the surface. I ignored the soul. That sentence filled the room with silence. Not an uncomfortable silence. A healing silence. Because admitting we were wrong is never easy. But it is one of the bravest things a person can do. Your special person quietly answered, they don't need perfection from people. They only hope people choose kindness. And that's exactly why they deserve kindness. The room felt lighter. Almost as if everyone had been carrying an invisible weight. Then someone asked the question nobody expected. What if they never know we changed our minds? Your special person smiled gently. They don't need everyone's approval. They only need to keep being themselves. Because the right people always recognize a genuine heart. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not loudly. But eventually. Truth always has a way of being seen. If you've ever been misunderstood, write, my character will speak. Because it will. Not today. Not tomorrow. But one day. People forget rumors. People forget assumptions. People forget first impressions. But they remember kindness. They remember honesty. They remember the person who stayed. The person who encouraged them. The person who treated them with dignity. That legacy cannot be erased. As the evening came to an end, one older family member quietly looked toward your special person. Then said, you were right. It was never about age. It was never about appearances. It was always about the kind of human being they chose to become. Your special person's eyes filled with gratitude. Not because they had won an argument. Because understanding had finally replaced judgment. And that is always worth celebrating. Before everyone left, your special person spoke one final time. If this person ever doubts themselves, I hope someone reminds them that their kindness mattered. I hope someone reminds them that they changed lives without even realizing it. I hope someone reminds them that the world needs more people with hearts like theirs. Because good hearts often underestimate themselves. They remember their mistakes. Others remember their compassion. They remember their failures. Others remember how they made people feel. Never forget that. The impact of your life is often much greater than you can see. One encouraging conversation. One act of patience. One moment of forgiveness. Those things echo further than you will ever know. The night ended quietly. No applause. No dramatic ending. Just a room full of people who finally understood one simple truth. The greatest thing about a person is never the number of years they have lived. It is the number of hearts they have lifted. The number of lives they have encouraged. The number of people who became stronger because they existed. And if one day someone asks your special person what made you unforgettable, their answer will never be your age. It will never be your appearance. It will never be your achievements. They will simply smile and say, "They reminded me that kindness still exists." And once you meet someone like that, you never forget them. If this story encouraged you today, take a moment to encourage someone else. A kind word. A sincere thank you. A message of appreciation. Small acts of kindness often become the biggest memories. Because in the end, people may forget what you owned. They may forget what you accomplished. But they will always remember how your heart made them feel. And that is a legacy that time can never erase. As the days became weeks, and the weeks became months, life continued moving forward. New conversations happened. New memories were created. New chapters began. But one thing never changed. Whenever your name was mentioned, people no longer talked about your age. They talked about your heart. They talked about your kindness. They talked about the peace you brought into other people's lives. And that is when your special person realized something they would never forget. The greatest victory is not proving people wrong. The greatest victory is living with such honesty that the truth eventually speaks for itself. You never argued with those who misunderstood you. You never chased everyone's approval. You simply continued becoming the kind of person you believed God created you to be. And somehow, that became your loudest testimony. Your special person smiled as they remembered the words they spoke that day. Not because they had defended you, but because they had finally defended what truly mattered. Character. Integrity. Compassion. Faith. Hope. Those are the things that outlive every opinion. Those are the things no number can measure. Those are the things that make a life meaningful. Maybe today someone has judged you without knowing your story. Maybe someone has underestimated your value. Maybe someone has looked at the outside and completely missed the beauty within. Do not let that change who you are. Do not allow temporary opinions to shape your permanent identity. Continue choosing kindness. Continue choosing patience. Continue choosing truth. Because every act of goodness plants a seed. Some seeds grow quickly. Others take years. But every genuine act of love leaves a mark somewhere. Even when you never see it. Your special person looked toward the horizon one final time. A quiet smile crossed their face. They whispered, "I hope they never doubt themselves again. I hope they remember that they are enough. I hope they keep shining even when the world feels dark. I hope they never stop believing that kindness is stronger than hate. And I hope they know. They changed my life. Not with grand gestures. Not with perfection. But by showing what a faithful, compassionate, and genuine heart looks like." That became the lesson everyone carried home. People may remember your age for a moment. But they will remember your character for a lifetime. People may forget your accomplishments. But they will never forget how you made them feel. Long after conversations end. Long after opinions fade. Long after years pass. Love. Kindness. Integrity. And compassion remain. If this story reminded you that your value is found in your character and not in the labels people place on you, let it encourage you to become someone's reason to believe that good people still exist. Because the world will always have enough critics. What it needs is more people with hearts that choose grace. More people who forgive. More people who encourage. More people who quietly make life better for everyone around them. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy anyone can leave. Not fame. Not wealth. Not recognition. But a heart that made other hearts stronger. So walk forward with confidence. Protect your peace. Protect your integrity. Protect your kindness. Because those gifts are priceless. And one day, when people tell your story, they will not begin with your age. They will begin with your heart. And that will always be enough.